become more of a transformational company where you get an emotional ROI instead of just a financial ROI. You'll feel better. You like where we're investing. You feel supported and taken care of. You have transparency.
Hey everybody, welcome to the season finale of Wealth Unfiltered Season 1. I'm Samantha Parinella, your host, and I am delighted to introduce you to the CEO of Viking Capital, a company that had modest beginnings and is now a billion-dollar portfolio. And it was just started about a decade ago. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Vikram Raya. Hi, Vic.
Samantha, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Great. Congrats on a very successful first season of Wealth Unfiltered.
Thank you. Well, we're very excited to have you on for the finale. I know that this is going to be a very powerful episode for our listeners, so let's jump right in.
Yeah, I was joking with Chris. I'm like, hey, do you think I can make the cut, get on the show? Because I know you've had some really powerful guests and you've had some very interesting conversations.
Yeah, we have. No, this season has been full of some wonderful economists, some amazing guests, some lessons for all of our listeners. And, obviously Chris is my resident guest here. So he has been doing a lot to really, I think, give people a lot of information that I wouldn't be able to do without him. So I'm hoping today they get to learn more specifically about the company that, gave Chris the opportunity that they have.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull back the kimono and really talk about Viking Capital, how it's been the last couple of years and where we're going.
Amazing. So you and your partner, Ravi Gupta, you started by, raising basically equity for other companies, but now you have a billion-dollar portfolio. So I really want you to reflect back on the last 10 years and tell me, are there any outstanding moments that were really turning points for Viking?
Our origin story is important. We really had to shift from being a W-2 employee to really being an entrepreneur. And so the early years was Ravi and I really figuring out what does it look like to run a company, to get started, to get working capital, to build a team. And there's a lot of bruises along the way, but we learned a lot. And we really believed in the mission and the vision, which was to help bring institutional level investments to everybody out there, all the successful entrepreneurs, investors, the people who've been with us from the very beginning. And now as we go to the new chapter of Viking, we're really looking to make this a professional company to where we can compete with the likes of BlackRock and all these other big institutions out there. We really want to be the white glove service, the transformation of the communities, the investment level grade returns that people expect with the warm and deep connections that we have with our investors.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about that and where Viking is going, are there any specific lessons that you've learned to build this company?
A couple of lessons. To get to your dreams, you need a team. And so we learned what it means to have really smart, deeply motivated, inspired experts whom we've assembled to form Viking. So we really have the best of the best. So I have someone who does marketing that other companies now emulate us on. And Ashley has been amazing as our director of marketing. And Chris, we've had someone who has institutional level pedigree, but can talk to literally any investor out there, whether they're a family office down to someone who's investing for the first time. In Ed, we have someone who's our director of asset management, but also who has deep knowledge of development as well. And so he went from managing all our assets, and really harnessing the full horsepower of their capabilities of these assets to get great return for investors, to starting a new vertical for Viking, which is we're starting to go and, take shovels and build something from the ground up and take something vertical. For the first time, we've never done that before. And that's really exciting. And we think that's going to be another twin force of growth for Viking, where we're going to have existing value add deals, and then we're going to do these amazing development deals. And then finally, Judah. Judah is our resident expert. He's a master networker. He knows pretty much everyone in the industry, and he really can search out and find the needle in the haystack we go through, 1,500, maybe 2,000 deals a year. And he finds the 5 or 6 that make the most sense for us. And when we get those under contract. So again, I'm blessed to have this rock star team. And then obviously I have so many other people that are part of these departments as well. And so, starting from just me and Ravi to a team of four, to a team of six, to a team of eight, to now a team of like 20 plus extended, maybe even a team of 30 to 40. It's an amazing journey. And so I think that's what people get when they decide to work with Viking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hitting $1 billion assets is no small feat. And in order to do that, you had to build this team that you're talking about. So, is there one thing that you look for when you're looking to bring on a new hire?
I think the core values of our company have to be emulated in the people that are coming on. And so it's that constant, never ending improvement. It's a health first mindset. It's being driven. These are the values that we really want to see in other people. We see in ourselves and me and Ravi. And then obviously the company embodies that with its exponential growth that we've had over the last couple of years. And so that's important. We also want people who are not just doing this for money. We want them to buy into the mission. Viking really sees itself as helping their investors, which are, the profit section of it all. It's helping the planet with whether it's ESG, it's better development practices, it's improving, water usage in these apartments. And then finally, it's the people. Like, we want to help our investors. We want to help the community. We want to help, work with the brokers. We want to be good practices with sellers. And so literally every relationship that Viking touches should grow from our involvement. And so I think people who believe in that are the people we want at Viking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that you have a very good, I mean, it's obviously taken time to establish your reputation, but I would say Viking has a pretty strong reputation when it comes to brokers, when it comes with building relationships in the industry. When you look at overall at your partnerships and how you guys have created those, what do you feel has been one of the strongest ways that you've done that?
I love partnerships. I love them for multiple reasons. You learn from them even when they don't go right, and you definitely helps you grow when they do pan out. And so from the ones that didn't work out, I've learned, hey, retain operational control. I've learned, hey, find in partners who are fully aligned with your viewpoint and are in it for the long term. And at the first sign of adversity, they have each other's back. And from the good relationships, I've learned, man, 1 + 1 = 5, and we can really grow this company a lot faster when we bring in people who are fully aligned. And whether these are investors, whether these are brokers, these are pref equity groups, JV groups. There's people who source deals. I mean, it's amazing the kind of good people that are in the multifamily industry, and it's about really going out and making sure that you add value, that you collaborate with people. I really think that there's enough deals for everyone. There's enough capital for everyone. There's enough returns for everyone. So we having this abundance mindset going in versus a scarcity mindset, I think that's allowed us to be calm, collected, and focused on our growth, and allows us to partner with the right people.
Yeah. So when you talk about partnering with people, you mentioned, JV partnerships, and you have, obviously your LP investors, which, and I think it's just like a hats off to you all, because I know just recently in the last like 4 or 5 years, you only had 300 or 400 investors, and it's over 1,000 now. But you also have, a program called the Fund to Fund. And I know that program helps basically other people create tribes or create groups to invest. But I'd like you to touch on it a little bit more, because I think this could be a very powerful way for our listeners to get involved with Viking.
Yeah, I think there's 3 ways to invest. Most people start being a limited partner, which is where they decide, hey, I want to invest, but I want to be completely passive, where I'm just sitting, relaxing, and my money's growing without me. The only work they do is to find the person they want to partner with, and eventually, submit their funds, and then keep an eye on their quarterly distributions and their reports. The second way is to be much more active, where they're going to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty and really get in and find deals and run those deals, and eventually they'll have a profit. Obviously, they'll get a slightly increased return, but they have energy and time that they had to invest. But people don't realize there's a third way, and that third way is really being actively passive, is where, hey, look, I've already had success with a group. I've worked with them. I know a lot of people and friends who have capital that they like to invest. let me get them involved in my project that I've already invested in, and let me get some of the returns, but also be a guide for those guys. And so that's essentially being called a fund of fund or a co-GP or sort of a capital allocator. And recently there's a company called TribeVest that has really made it SEC compliant with using this more of a fund of fund model, where essentially you're coming in and your friends are coming in under one entity, a special purpose vehicle, if you will, and they take care of all the paperwork. They take care of all the things. You just tell them what you want to happen. And essentially with an autopilot mentality, you're able to now get better returns, involve friends and family, get strong economics, and be involved in deals without doing all the hard work that an active investor does.
Wonderful. And I know that Viking actually partners with TribeVest. So like it makes it from start to finish between marketing, your IR team, TribeVest. It's white glove, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the key here at Viking is we're here because this company was created, by investors for investors. And so we really are investor centric, where we want to make it feel like, it's the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons when you invest with us. You have, again, powerful customer service. You have a digital platform that tracks all your investments. Now we're going to release an app that allows them to get information up to date on all their properties they've invested in, as well as their distributions, and as well as be able to submit and get new investments all with a touch of a button. And they can be sitting on a beach in Ibiza if they wanted. And so that's the power of what we're providing. We're also starting to use artificial intelligence, Samantha, in our property management strategies, in our marketing, in our investor services, even in our deal analytics. And so I think we're a company on the edge of what's possible for an investment platform.
Are you looking to build sustainable wealth and achieve financial freedom? Viking Capital can help you do just that through multifamily investing. With a team of seasoned real estate experts, Viking Capital conducts deep financial analysis and data-driven asset management to deliver outstanding returns. Their strategy focuses on low-risk opportunities with significant value-add potential, preserving your capital while maximizing long-term growth. Join them and be part of a success story. Viking Capital has acquired 30 properties and manages over 6,000 units, all thanks to their dedicated team and valued investors. Discover their current deal offerings at vikingmultifamily.com and start your journey to financial freedom today.
And the thing is, our goal is not for you to invest in Viking. Our goal is for you to get educated about alternative investments and become savvy and sophisticated to where if you want to invest, Viking would be one of your partners that you choose to invest with. And we want to be that partner with you longitudinally. And it's not one-off relationship. I mean, some of our investors have been with us for 8, 9, 10 years.
So speaking to that exact point, what do you think that makes Viking so different that keeps investors coming back deal after deal?
I think the stability of the leadership. Me and Ravi have been together for many years. I've known him for almost 15 years now. We're in this for the long run. And number two is we reinvest into the platform. Viking has really evolved into a private equity platform. We're here as a sophisticated instrument for high net worth individuals, professionals, family offices now, and JV groups, pref groups to really have a programmatic relationship to succeed in their long-term financial goals. And for the individuals out there, their goal is financial freedom and to free up time. I think we do that with the investments that we provided. For some of the other institutions, they're looking for safety and a certain yield, and they're looking for sort of transactional prowess and investment grade capable opportunities. And I think we provide that as well. So I think we're able to get the institutional level feel with the high touch that most people want and they don't get in a lot of other firms. And I think this has, again, become more of a transformational company where you get an emotional ROI instead of just a financial ROI, right? You'll feel better. You like where we're investing. You feel supported and taken care of. You have transparency. You have very detailed reporting. We get our K1s out on time, so you're not fighting with your CPAs. All of that's happening. On top of it, that you're seeing us, donate money to certain charities and other groups and missions that we believe in. And so it's hard to find all that in one company. And on top of that, even the communities that we're a part of, we're transforming those communities. We're doing Wellness Wednesdays where we create healthy events or healthy opportunities for those communities, like a juice bar or CPR classes and things like that. So I think all of this is speaking to the individual investor as well as the institutional investor.
Absolutely. So you obviously there's been an evolution, in 10 years. Every company has that, and most are not even fortunate enough to get to where you are. So hats off to Viking for the decade of being in business. First of all, I mean that was this year, and then over that decade, you guys have seen many market cycles. And so one of the things that has happened, and I think anyone who's in real estate knows this, is that there has been a lot of turbulence, a lot of ups and downs, especially in the last 5-6 years. So what I would say to you is, how did Viking, navigate that and truly remain agile in the uncertainty?
Honestly, it has been a challenge. If someone tells you otherwise, they're probably not sharing the truth. If you haven't had challenges in a 10-year span, if you're a company in the United States, then you haven't really, faced adversity then. Because if you face adversity, you're going to have challenges. And I'll give you an example. Last 3 years, because of the almost 500 basis point increase in the interest rates, sometimes deals don't pencil out. Or if you're in a deal and there's variable rates, that's been a challenge. But it's not the challenges that define Viking. It's the vision and the strategy and then the camaraderie on tackling the challenges that really I'm proud of. And so whatever challenge has come our way, we faced it as a company. We figured out, hey, how do we always take care of our investors? Capital preservation was number one. Number two was, how do we turn things around? And how do we lean into the challenge to where it becomes an advantage? And for example, when most companies were pencils down for the last 2 or 3 years, Viking has steadily been doing deal after deal after deal. And these deals are sometimes deals of a century. We haven't seen these cap rates in a long time. We haven't seen these basis plays in a long time. And so that's why NMHC, the National Multifamily Housing Council, named Viking as one of the top 10 groups doing deals in 2024. And that was pretty impressive when I saw that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's wonderful. So you talk about, navigating all of that. Was there a specific strategy or something you're proud of that really helped you through the adversity?
I'll give you 2 techniques. One technique was we essentially deputized all our leadership team, all the way from the vice presidents all the way down to, some of the newer team members. And so they have this 1-3-1 strategy where they come to us with the problem and they define it in solvable terms, and they come up with 3 valid strategies to solve it. And then they make one recommendation of what they think we should do as a company. And what is done is it allowed, instead of it being top-down leadership, it's become bottom-up leadership. And that's been absolutely a game changer for us. And so now everyone here is wearing like a little mini CEO hat, and they're thinking more strategically, tactically, operationally, instead of like waiting for a solution to drop down on them. And really what a role of a leader is to grow more leaders. And that's what we're doing at Viking.
Yeah. I mean, having the ownership mentality within a company amongst all of your employees is critical, I think, in order to for people to truly have the operation to excel. And I absolutely agree that is such an important part of a company that is striving to continue its growth. So I know that, Viking, you might have hit 10 years, but you're not done here. So what excites you about the next 10 years?
Well, we're starting to realize that, to really be an institution, to really be this private equity firm, we need to sort of professionalize some of our departments, our categories. So one of the things we want to do is we want to eventually bring on an executive president who's had multiple years of experience and help us get to that $5 billion mark or the $3 billion mark that's happening next. The next thing we want to do is really create an advisory board. And we already have amazing group of advisors, but we want to formalize that. So that advisory board is really going to help us get to that next level, and eventually, obviously, a board of directors. And so this is the natural evolution of some companies as they hit that upper level threshold. The second thing we want to do is continue to pour into our team members. We want each of them to grow and develop into their next level of greatness. And I think that is what keeps Viking at the cutting edge of success. The other thing is, the last thing is really culture. the meme is, I think, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so really, if you have a team of highly motivated individuals that really believe in the mission, they can outperform even a team twice or three times the size. And so adding more to the culture, pouring more into how we do things, why we do things, and really capture the imagination of our team members for that next big jaunt of the next 10 years, which I think we will grow into between a $3 to $5 billion company for sure the next 10 years. And so I'm excited about that. And the verticals we're going to develop are really continue to become best in class at value add multifamily, get into the development space with first doing the JV partnerships with development groups and eventually bringing development in-house. And then finally, we may explore another asset class. And right now we're considering senior housing and, there are other asset classes we're looking into, but it's always about keeping an eye on what's possible, but not going so far away from your roots that it seems like a different animal, if you will.
Yeah, no, everything that you're talking about is obviously very exciting. And knowing that you have a trajectory that you're on for the next 10 years, if you look back at what you've already done, is there something you would do differently to make sure that it doesn't happen again in the future?
I think it's about maybe getting started earlier if you get a sense of what's going on. And number two is staying focused. We got excited about so many different things when we were younger. We thought we are going to do, a hemp farm and CBD when that was big. And we thought we are going to do student housing. We're going to do all these things. And we thought we are going to do it all at the same time, car washes. And so what we realized is, look, mastery requires time, persistence, dedication, execution. And you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And so by us focusing, we've really learned how to be successful in a way that's very meaningful, right? We've been able to be successful during multiple market cycles. And so I think that's the key. And so it's strategically adding things over time that makes sense. It's staying focused. It's also not getting distracted. And it's, if you see an opportunity, for example, AI is something that we've really dove into. And I think we dove into it at the right amount of time. I still know a lot of people who are not taking it seriously. And I think that's a mistake. And so now I know what I need to devote my energy and time into. And so that's I think that's the key. As we grow the company into the next 10 years, it's getting institutionalized with the leadership. It's keeping our core of who we are, not changing that, getting into some of the new fields we've talked about, and obviously embracing tech and AI and really modernizing the company.
Yeah, so you talk about, strategy and how you're going to continue to grow and even some new asset classes. Is Viking, as of now, planning to stay in the Sun Belt, or what should we expect for location?
Yeah, a great question. We started off as just a player in one municipality, which was Atlanta. We really like Atlanta. It made a lot of sense. And we grew there. And then at that point, we realized, hey, either we can diversify in Atlanta in other asset classes than just stick to Atlanta, or stay with the same asset class but go other cities. And we chose the second option. We wanted to go into other cities. So we got into all the major Texas markets. We got into Indiana. We got into Washington, D.C. And now we got into Nashville and Phoenix. And so I think we're going to be a national player. We really are going to look into some other asset. We're going to look into some other MSAs. Florida is high on our list. Hint, hint, everybody. And then we're looking into the Carolinas next. And so any place that is what I call landlord friendly and that has demand and growth and supply constrained, those are potential markets for Viking. And so we are definitely going to expand. I'd love to get something in Hawaii one day just for the fun of it, but we'll see what my acquisitions department says about that one.
That would be amazing. So touching on, I think a really, really cool fact about Viking, because like I had mentioned earlier, you have over 1,000 investors. But I think something that happened last year was that officially Viking has at least one investor in every single state in the U.S. Isn't that right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I think it was like Utah or Idaho. It was one of those states that we were like, come on, guys, we need one of the guys to join us. And they did. So it was exciting. And now we're starting to get international recognition. I think we have some wealthy individuals from Colombia that have joined us, the country. China has a potential in terms of investing. There's some really institutional level players from India and then maybe Europe. And so we're starting to get more of an international exposure for those wealthy family offices or institutions who want U.S. real estate exposure. They're starting to lean into Viking as an option.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, most companies can only hope that they can have a national name and to get international exposure, especially. I think I would consider Viking still a young company in the sense that there's people who have been doing this for 20 years who I don't think have had the same growth trajectory that Viking has, and especially with the amount of incredible, like, the reputation staying intact and people really coming from the company and still talking highly of it. I think that that's a feat that is one of those things that you should be very proud of. But I will say, I have one last question before I jump into my rapid fire for you. And what I'd like to ask you is kind of summing up everything. When you think back to your humble beginnings and you think about where you started, what is like one piece of advice you'd give to somebody who's thinking about doing the same thing that you did?
You can be successful at anything. There are people who own garbage companies that are billion-dollar garbage companies, roofing companies, medical staffing, teaching, online teaching, mentorship. So it doesn't matter what you end up deciding as your quote-unquote profession. Stick with it long-term. Learn to play long-term games with long-term partners, right? I think that's the key. And then the second thing is, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And so you're going to go through tough times no matter what you end up deciding, but it's having some perspective during those tough times and laughing at yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously. And here's the last advice I would say is you never really arrived. Like you get better at where you are, but you never feel like you've ever really arrived because there's always the next challenge and the next thing ahead. So you should somehow have what I call blissful discontent, right? You should be blissfully happy where you are, but know that there's more out there that you want to accomplish. And so I think these are some of my guiding principles that have given me a little bit of, I guess, composure and perspective as we've grown.
Well, some wonderful advice. I love that. So I want to finish today's segment with you by 3 quick fire questions. And these are really for our listeners to get to know you, but also for maybe a little quick piece of advice. So my first one is, what is one book that every investor should read?
That is 10x is easier than 2x by Benjamin Hardy. I love the book. The concept is pretty simple. It's in the title, right? But sometimes growing exponentially is a lot more fun, interesting, and you're a lot more likely to get more people involved than just growing just incrementally. And so, going from like 1 billion to 5 billion, that's exciting, but going from 1 billion to 1.2 billion, that's not that much, it's not that interesting. And so, and what you did to get here is not what you need to do to get there, right? And so by you having these big outlandish goals, even if you don't accomplish them, you can go halfway. They're so much more better off and further off than if you had just done it where it's like, okay, I just need to get slightly better, right? And the second thing is really, it's learning to harness teams, resources, capital, money, social media, marketing, all of it. Like really a good CEO, a good founder, a person who's leading an organization, all their best job is to think like an investor and marshal and harness the resources they have to accomplish an outcome. And so that's the key. And so think big, act big, go fast, climb the mountain. But before you climb the mountain, make sure it's the right mountain.
Well, I can say I haven't read that book, but I'm going to add it to my reading list. So the next question I have for you is, what is one habit that has been critical to your success?
I would have to say it's getting up early. It's having rituals and routines. One of my mentors says, he has a quote he lives by, he goes, I am my rituals. And so if rituals, habits, routines are these pre-programmed things you do every day that either inch you toward your goals or away from your goals, make sure that they're the ones that go toward your goals. I know you get up really early, Samantha. I know so does Chris, a lot of the people on our team. In fact, it's no coincidence that most people on my team, like when we go on a business trip and we're going on a conference or a meeting to or we're going to go see a property, it's no coincidence that when I go 5 a.m. to the gym, I see most of my team there, right? That's who we are. Like attracts like, water goes to its own level. And so I think by having high energy people who are physically fit, who are, inspired, who are motivated, who have that help first mentality, who are driven, and who all want to be collaborative and help everyone around them, that's what makes Viking Viking. And that's who we're surrounded by.
I love that. Well, speaking of Viking, you've gotten me to my last question for you. What is one word that you would think would describe your next 10 years?
Let's see here. It's, I'm going to have to cheat here. I'm going to call it 3 words, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We've learned how to sprint the marathon. And what I mean by that is, this is from my book, The Perfect Week Formula. So I talk about there's 3 types of people out there in the world. There are the people who sprint, which they go really fast. They amaze everyone. And then a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, they poop out and they're done. They're wiped out. And it takes them, maybe they never get back, but maybe it takes them several years before they can run again. Then there are people who, they're not going to be first in anything, but they're never going to quit. But they go so slow, it's almost boring to watch them, right? And they just keep chugging along. And you're like, oh my God, when are you going to get to the finish line? And then there's the third group. The third group is they're like the Kenyan, marathoners. They can run a marathon in 2 hours. They run at a very fast clip. They don't get tired because they know how to take care of themselves. They have stamina, they have endurance, but they're pushing toward a goal and they're driven and they're relentless. And hence, that's Viking. So we're going to sprint the marathon.
I love that. And the fact that you said that was in your book, because I actually got a copy of your book and I plan on reading it. So I'm very excited about that. And I want to take this time to thank you for your time today and joining the finale of the first season of Wealth Unfiltered. Thank you so much, Vikram. And to all of our listeners, thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for listening. And please join us in the fall for next season. We have a lot of great guests already on the docket.
Guys, Wealth Unfiltered. Check out all the older episodes if you haven't seen it yet. It's a really cool podcast. I'm so glad that you guys started it. Congrats on your first season.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for tuning into this episode. We truly appreciate your support. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with your friends. Until next time.